Hi, I'm Danielle Romero. Thank you so much for being with me here on my channel where we talk about American identity and family stories. And today I want to react to something I have been meaning to react to for probably 3 years since I started this channel because you suggested it. Rebecca Hall directed a film. It was her first film that was an adaptation of Nella Larsen's book, Passing. And it is something near and dear to her heart because it's part of her own family story as it's part of mine. The book Passing is from 1929. This was meaningful to Rebecca because her own mother is an opera singer, I think, named Maria Ewing, and she was born in Detroit. Digging into this really resonated with me because if you know how I started my channel, it was because of this exact topic. And so I wanted to watch just a few minutes of Rebecca Hall kind of speaking and sit with you and react to that.
Rebecca Hall has been on screen and acting since age 10, but in her new film, Passing, she steps into the director role for the first time. Tonight, as part of our arts and culture series Canvas, she shares her brief but spectacular take on passing and on her own racial identity.
I grew up with an American mother, and while I was growing up, there was a lot of mystery surrounding her heritage. Her father was, I suppose the cleanest way of putting it, was racially ambiguous.
A reaction I get for reacting like this, people will comment and say, well, what does it matter what you look like? Or that's not who you are. It matters is who you are on the inside. And that is true. But that also tells me that you haven't experienced what it's like to grow up in a family where you can't get straight answers and you know something is off, but you can't put your finger on it. It's like being gaslit, you know? You can't put your finger on it and you're not sure if you're crazy or not. So it's always a relief, I think, to hear from other people who understand what that's like.
I always looked at my mother and I always felt that I was looking at a woman who was African American. When I would ask her about this, she would not have a clear way of answering me. Somewhere along this journey of asking questions, somebody gave me a book called Passing, and it was the first time that I had heard that word, that it was something that Black people did during Jim Crow in America, that they passed for many things, past white, past indigenous. After reading the book, it was clear to me that the mystery and the enigmas within my own family were because my grandfather had spent his life passing white.
All right. So, for all the people who are going to tell me that I'm just one dropping everyone, it's like that's not the case. But again, it's this idea of discussing our ancestors in situ, right? In context, where they existed, what was their situation like, and at the time, she's talking about her her great grandfather, her grandfather, my mom's grandmother. Uh, they were existed in a world where the one drop rule, and that was the rule of the land. It was truly a law in Louisiana until 1983. When I use the word passing, I'm not using it in a sense like I really think people can be white or black, because I don't. But we're talking about what that meant socially at the time.
Passing is a novel that was written in 1929 by Nella Larsen at the height of the Harlem Renaissance. Before I read the novel, I didn't have language or context for what my grandfather did. After reading the novel, I had, I think, for the first time, a true understanding of that historical context, the erasing of history, the erasing of the stories of your family that get passed on from generation to generation. It's a hard decision to decide to erase that and not tell children those stories. And reading the book gave me a greater understanding of how hard that choice must have been for him. It also gave me a framework for thinking about my own racial identity. Passing is my directorial debut and also my debut as a screenwriter. Everything in this film is passing for something. And that includes the film itself. It has its own performance, it has its own dialogue of cinema. I think that my engagement with this book, to bring it into the culture, is in a way my way of honoring my ancestors.
Oh, she has said so much. I like that she's talking about how hard it must have been to not tell your your children, your grandchildren, who your family really is, because family is such a source of pride, right? And we love bragging about where we come from and things, and to kind of turn that on its head and to feel like you can't do that for so many reasons. You feel like you can't do that for so many reasons, and her bringing it out like this makes me feel so happy and so good. I have something really big I want to share with you about that, but I'm gonna let her finish.
It is not lost on me that the systems of white supremacy that forced, encouraged my grandfather to pass as white are also the systems that I now benefit from as a white presenting person. There are privileges that come with looking how I look. I cannot choose how I present, but I can choose to honor that history. I'm Rebecca Hall, and this is my brief but spectacular take on passing.
So this is a weird thing before I get into the other meat of this, but she looks like exactly like one of my cousins on this side of the family. My cousin even wears her hair like this. It's super crazy. So I'm gonna see if I can find a picture of Alicia to put on for this show. It was really weird. I started this whole channel because of wanting to understand this story, to share this story with you. First of all, I had no understanding of to share this story of finding my great grandmother Lola, who she was in Louisiana, what she was running from, excuse me. And I shared the story, and then I've also kind of tried to just in public understand the context, the American history of how that could even happen. And I've shared this before, but I'm a historian. I also have my master's in education, and yet I felt like I was looking at American history for the first time when I started this channel, and understanding how you get to this point, how you get to this point where people don't know where they come from. And I'm not talking about 10,000 years ago everybody came from Africa. No, I'm talking my mom didn't know anything about her own grandmother who she grew up with. It's not the same thing, and I really really don't like when people try to equivocate those. I wrote a book about finding Lola, and I don't know what I'm going to do with it yet. I don't have an agent. I am trying to understand the publishing industry. I may start querying agents. I don't know, but I wrote a book about it, about the entire experience of what Miss Rebecca Hall is explaining, of just finding out that you didn't know where you came from, and what my experience was like trying to wrestle with myself and my grandmother and other family members, and even going down to Louisiana. And there's so much in the book that I never shared on YouTube, and I don't know if it'll ever make it on here. But I'm working on it. I don't know what I'm gonna do with it yet. It's like a full-size book, but yeah, I'm still working that out. But I want to share it because hearing Rebecca's story, it's impacting me. And I think that sharing stories, sharing our experiences, even if we don't have a neat and tidy resolution, even more so when we don't have a neat and tidy resolution, sharing those stories is encouraging people to look for the truth, look for truth in your family, and be okay in that liminal space of not fully understanding why did someone do this, how did they feel, but also being able to look at it realistically as but this happened, now what? So if you have any suggestions about what to do with a full book when you don't have an agent, I'm not against self-publishing, but I would really love to have people walk me through the process, because I really don't know what I'm doing. So If this video made you think differently about your own family story, or if you'd like to join me on researching family story and American identity, please hit subscribe. If you'd like to connect with me off of YouTube and watch videos ad-free, ask me questions that I'll definitely see, please join me over at Patreon at patreon.com/NYTN. Otherwise, we'll talk soon. Over the last 2 years, I've been telling the stories that often get ignored. But lately, I've been facing an uphill battle behind the scenes of each video. My videos are getting flagged by YouTube when all I'm doing is sharing real history. If these stories have ever resonated with you or given you a new perspective, grab some Be a Good Ancestor merch and help me keep this channel going. Check out nytonashville.com.